Oh boy, there's an overload of new fragrances coming out, and I've got a lot of them here in this video. I'm going to talk to you about these new releases that I've purchased. And also there's a few fragrances towards the end that are not necessarily new, but new in my collection. So this is kind of like an update on what fragrances smell like, what new fragrances smell like, haul video kind of a thing. Anyway, if you want to find out what these fragrances are and what they smell like, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Yeah, today I'm talking about many new fragrances that have come out. I've smelled some of them, I haven't others. And I'm going to let you know what these fragrances are all about. And one of the fragrances I did a review of yesterday, the Mugler, this one here, the Alien Goddess. So if you haven't caught that review, go catch that. But I'll let you know a little bit about it here. Some exciting fragrances, some were exciting but a little disappointed, and I'll let you know what they are. But before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. I want to ask you right up front, what are your favorite exciting fragrances that you've been anticipating or that you've picked up already? Let me know, put a comment down so I can find out. We're going to go ahead and start off with the first one that I've worn. I actually wore this one, not the one I reviewed yesterday, I'll get to that in a bit, but this is Frederic Malle's Synthetic Jungle, this one right here. So this one was very, very exciting for me because I was anticipating a new fragrance from Frederic Malle for a while. The last time he launched two fragrances, the Moon and Rose and Queer, towards the fall of 2019. So this is almost 2 years later for a brand new release, and I'm actually really enjoying this particular release. This is a green fragrance called Synthetic Jungle, as you can see, and I like green fragrances. They're using a brand new perfumer, Anne Filippo from IFF. In fact, I think all of the perfumers that have done fragrances for Frederic Malle are from IFF, International Flavors and Fragrances. So basically the brand goes there and contracts out perfumers to do fragrances. So this is the first time Anne Filippo has done a fragrance for the house of Frederic Malle. He's done a lot of fragrances with Dominique Ropion. In fact, Anne Filippo, Dominique Ropion recently worked on Phantom by Paco Rabanne with two other perfumers. But let's not get into that. This is all about Synthetic Jungle, and as soon as I saw the notes, I was really excited about it. Galbanum is a note in here that's featured in here, very green and bitter, kind of herbaceous, kind of crunchy, crisp, and stemmy, or twigs, kind of an experience, but it features notes of Galbanum, Oakmoss, Basil, black currant, jasmine, hyacinth, lily of the valley, patchouli, almonds. So I wore this one time. In fact, I wore it on an Instagram live recently, and I really enjoyed what it did. I haven't worn it since then, but I enjoyed the way the fragrance started out, very green and crunchy, crisp, leafy, stemmy, you know, green twigs kind of a thing, developed into kind of a floral thing, which was really beautiful. It's jasmine that really stood out, but according to the notes, there's lily of the valley, so I can see it. So lily of the valley to me sometimes goes into kind of jasmine-like smell and vice versa, so I can see that they're kind of working together beautifully. But there's also this hyacinth note in here, which to me also smells a little green. So the whole entire concoction is green. Beautiful fragrance. I definitely will put this one to great use. I think it's a great fragrance. If you like green fragrances, one of my favorite styles, I think you definitely need to check that one out. So that is Synthetic Jungle. What do you guys think of the name for Synthetic Jungle? I know some people don't like it, but let me know. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about that one, it does kind of remind me of Rose and Queer. Rose and Queer from Frederic Malle was that kind of geranium, rose, minty kind of thing with leather. So it was green experience. So the greenness with this one kind of reminds me of the greenness of that one as well. Anyway, we'll put that to use more. But the next fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is a feminine targeted fragrance. The previous fragrance is unisex. Mugler's Alien Goddess, which I just did a review for yesterday. Go catch my full review. I kind of dig into the perfumers behind this fragrance. But actually, this is a really delicious experience. It's vanillic, beachy. Definitely a departure from what Alien smells like, and also very, very high priced. I think this is very expensive for a designer from a signature line. I forgot to mention that yesterday. I did mention how expensive it is and how it's a little over priced, I think, but I did not say that in comparison to its you know, like a designer signature line in comparison to their like private collection of type of fragrances. But this I think it's overpriced at 170. I think it should be around 130 at the most. It's a 90 ml bottle even. It's not even 100 ml. So when you factor in the prices and tax, I paid about 190 for this, although I got a credit back a couple days later because it went on sale. But overall, though, the smell is really great. I really think it's a great job that they've done. The perfumers, Marie Salamagna and also Nathalie Lorson, worked on this. So they're both very advanced perfumers and they do know how to create great fragrances. But only really negatives about this one are the fact that it's overpriced and also that it doesn't smell like alien. I don't know. Maybe it does to you guys. To me, it doesn't. Let me know. Put a comment down if you've sampled this one, and then you can also go catch my full review of that one if you'd like. The next one is also a feminine targeted release. This is Black Opium Eau de Parfum Extreme. My very first purchase of a YSL Black Opium collection of fragrances. I bought it because I saw the notes and one of you guys mentioned it's really good, so I decided to buy it. I couldn't find a perfumer's name for this one, but it features notes of coffee, cacao, patchouli, vanilla, jasmine, orange blossom. Really great gourmand notes. It's actually really, really delicious. It's a little powdery, but definitely you can experience the coffee. It's a little on the creamy side, not necessarily bitter coffee. And also the cacao, it's a little powdery, dusty, but there's the chocolatiness in there. And combined with the patchouli and vanilla together, I think it's a great wearing experience. And even though it's gourmand, definitely has the feminine touches. So guys thinking that this might be masculine, it's not. I definitely pick up more of a feminine experience when I'm wearing this one, even though it's got those gourmand notes. But I think it's pretty well done. I think that they've done a great job. I didn't forget to mention in this one, I got great longevity, but it overall was not a screamer. Same with this one. I think it got a great heft to it, but it doesn't project much. So that's kind of a negative with some of these designers that are now doing a little more of an intense experience and then also, you know, great performance as in longevity, but sadly they end up being not very big projectors, which is this one's also not a big projector. I think the notes in here kind of like tone it down from screaming out too loud. Either way though, but it's a delicious fragrance. YSL's Black Opium Eau de Parfum Extreme. It's a mouthful to say, but it is a good scent. I really enjoy that one. On the other hand though, the next fragrance, also under L'Oreal, we've got first Frederic Malle's Synthetic Jungle under Estee Lauder, then Mugler, the YSL are both under L'Oreal, and then this one, Maison Margiela's Autumn Vibes, is also L'Oreal. Sadly, very, very disappointed with this one. I don't quite like the smell whatsoever. It smells really odd to me. It's kind of I don't know, trying to make woods to go into an amber direction where the amber actually smells like woods kind of a thing, whereas I really like ambery fragrances. This one smells like amber woods, so it kind of smells boring. I didn't quite like this one. Sad, it's disappointing because they've done some great releases back to back. Every single one of the previous releases that came before this was, I think, pretty solid and smell-wise was a great scent. This, on the other hand, I will never wear. It's a very disappointing release. But this has notes of cedar, oak moss, carrot seeds, nutmeg, cardamom, pink pepper. I had a friend try it and they immediately didn't like it because they enjoy woody fragrances like cedar and things like that, because there is that initial blast of like chopped woods kind of a thing, like you're kind of like in a carpenter's shop and you can smell the kind of the woods being chopped or sawed and things like that, but it just becomes kind of like a boring wood amber, which is very, very I shouldn't say it's unpleasant, I just don't enjoy the smell myself. So sadly this one's a disappointment. I don't think I will review this one, unfortunately, but maybe you might like this one. Let me know, put a comment down so I can find out. So far the first three fragrances are pretty solid. The fourth one from Maison Margiela, disappointing to me. So this next fragrance I actually reviewed from a sample quite a bit ago. I received samples from somewhere, and now that I've been wearing the actual fragrance from the bottle, I do get a lot of differences. There is that initial blast of pungent qualities. I don't get much of the leather that I had mentioned that I did get from Sauvage Elixir, but I get the blast of aromatic spices, or aromatics and spices together. So I don't know what had happened with that sample that I received. Perhaps during its transportation from where it came from to me, might have picked up the smell of the plastic. But for me, Sauvage Elixir just seems like an amplified version of the Parfum version of this fragrance. So gone are all the ambroxan-esque touches from the initial release in Eau de Toilette. Because as soon as we got the Eau de Parfum, I felt like there was not much use of ambroxan, if any. And then the more it went into the more concentrated versions, it became more of a creamy aromatics, ambery style rather than ambroxan style, which is what we get here. To me, it reminds me of the Eau de Parfum. No, the Parfum version, but more concentrated, a lot more oily, and a little more intense in smells, as in the notes that are being used. But it features notes of lavender, cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom, sandalwood, licorice, amber, patchouli, grapefruit. I did want to experience more licorice. I don't get a lot of licorice with this one. I like the smell. It reminds me of too much of the collection, which I'm kind of really bored of. But if I had to pick my favorite from the line, I would actually pick this one as my favorite. I think it's a great scent. It smells great. It's also pretty long lasting, and it's also very oily. Elixir, as in the highest concentration. But when you look up under the box, it does say Parfum. So the concentration is the same as the Parfum, is it, or is it not? Maybe there's some differences with the oil concentration, but it does say that it's a Parfum, even though it's called Elixir. So I hope this is going to be the last Sauvage flanker that they do. Let's come up with a new, fragrance. I just wish they would, because I'm kind of getting burnt out on it. But if I had to pick my favorite from the entire collection, I would go with the Elixir. I think it's pretty solid in comparison to everything else. That's my thoughts on it. It's a kind of a dumb reach fragrance, but if you like the idea of smelling great, minus the ambroxan, which is missing from this, and most of the others except for the original, then check out the Elixir. I don't know, have you guys tried this one yet? Are you enjoying it? Let me know, put a comment down. This next fragrance is from the house of Diptyque. I actually Instagrammed about it a couple days ago. This is Orilla. This one, it's a very, very limited release. I went to our Diptyque store here in San Francisco. They did not have it. And they told me only a few stores in the USA have it. Beverly Hills and New York, so I figured out a way to get a bottle. I contacted the Beverly Hills store, ordered a bottle from there, got it. High anticipation, and even though I think what I got here with this fragrance smells great, it's a letdown because it reminds me of ombre leather a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot, with a kind of a fusion of ombre leather and Tuscan leather. So that part was disappointing, but once you get past that, the fragrance seems a lot richer in comparison to ombre leather or Tuscan leather. It has more of an ambery base, lightly sweeter, lightly a little fruitier than the other two fragrances, which made it the wearing experience much better. But Orilla, let me show you the bottle. It's this. If you guys are following me on Instagram, you probably saw me post this, but this is Orilla. This is once again created by Olivier Pechot, who's been creating many fragrances for this brand, Diptyque. But as a smell, as I said, I really enjoy it. I like the smell more than ombre leather. It just seems a lot richer. Like you're going from like 2% milk to like half and half kind of a thing. There's that kind of richness about it, which I really like. But sadly, it reminds me of ombre leather too much. And I love ombre leather. It's my favorite between ombre leather and Tuscan leather. But if I did not have ombre leather, this would be like an amazing fragrance in my collection. So it's a little bit of a letdown, unfortunately. But some of you that have not tried ombre leather and went straight to this might be gaga over it, kind of a thing. So I don't know. But the problem is, it's not very easy to get this. As I said, I had to make a phone call to get it. San Francisco Diptyque didn't have it. Only New York City and Beverly Hills had it. So I have it. I will pull it out occasionally and wear it, but it'll be stored above, up above where all my limited release, discontinued fragrances are. Anyway, that's Orilla from the House of Diptyque. One of 2 fragrances from the House of Diptyque. This next one is another Diptyque fragrance, and it's called Kyoto. It's in here. I haven't opened this one up yet. It comes with a very, very beautiful presentation. I didn't want to open it up until on camera, so I haven't really smelled this one. But this one I featured in a anticipating fragrances video. If you haven't caught that, you should go catch it. There's a lot of fragrances that I was speaking about that I was anticipating. And the reason this one looked interesting to me is that it has beetroot as a note. So if you like the idea of beets, the previous fragrance that I discovered that had beetroot as a note is Rouge from Comme des Garçons. That one did not feature roses. This one does feature roses. So it's Turkish rose, beetroot, frankincense, and vetiver. As you can see, that's what it looks like. Let's open it up for you to see how the presentation is. They've wrapped this thing up so beautifully. And I don't know if this is a limited edition release. I don't think so. I think the Orilla is. This one's not. Hate to kind of part with that, but let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's open that up. This is the first time I've seen a red bottle from Diptyque, and this is it right here. So it's a gorgeous red bottle. So I can see why they would make this a red bottle, because it's using beetroots as a note and also roses. And I'm going to spray it on me here. And I'll give you my first opinion right now. So I'm already smelling this one. Very green, kind of a rose. I do get some vegetal qualities. That was the initial blast. And then it starting to settle to... I'm smelling it like I haven't even put my nose to my wrist yet, and I'm smelling it. It's really, really good, actually. There's that vegetal quality, and I think it comes from the beetroot, but it's also green up top and spicy. I'm picking up pink pepperish kind of touches. Definitely incensey. The frankincense is there, but this is definitely a really yummy release. I'll play around with it more, but on a first smell on camera for the first time, I think I enjoy what I'm smelling here. I think it's definitely solid. I don't know performance or anything, but let me know if you've sampled any of these fragrances so far that I've spoken about. Put a comment down so I can find out. The next fragrance is going to an indie niche house. This is Papillon Perfumery's Spell 125. So this one might be a little more challenging for you guys to get, but it's out there. You can look for it. And this is a house I like. My favorite fragrance from this house is Salome. So I smelled this at Tiger Lily Perfumery, which is where I bought it from, and I liked it. But now it's become on me when I'm wearing it a little more resinous. And I think what happens is when I smelled it, it was warmer. Warmth opened up the notes a little more. This to me here is very, very resinous, like gum resin comes up, but it's chock full of olibanum, ambergris, Siberian pine, sandalwood, hemlock, ylang ylang. I don't love it as much as I love Salome. Salome is one of my best smells ever. If you haven't caught that video, I featured it in part 2 over the weekend. This to me is a little more challenging. The ambergris seems a little more intense, and ambergris can start smelling funky if it's a lot of it, and I do get a little bit of funk here from the ambergris, but in contrast to the olibanum, I get like gum resin kind of a touch to the fragrance. So it's dusty, gummy, resinous, smoky a little bit from that olibanum. Definitely the pine comes in as well, and then the rest of the fragrance is not, the notes don't seem as jump out as much as the first notes that I mentioned. So it is a little more challenging when I'm testing it out. Now it's not as sweet as it was when I first tested it out in the heat. So I'll try and wear this in the heat to come back with more of an explanation of what I'm getting with it. But I enjoy it. I got it because I initially enjoyed that smell. Again, it's not as great to me as Salome is, but you might like this one more than Salome. Salome has that cumin that a lot of people don't like. I love that in that fragrance. This one's going to be a little more challenging, just a tad bit more to me, because I think the ambergris pumps a little more, and then it does get a little funky from that ambergris. Anyway, Papillon Perfumery's Spell 125. Let me know if you know that fragrance. Alright, and the next fragrance is from the house of Coach. I haven't really spoken about Coach much, but this is Coach Dreams Sunset, another fragrance created by Nathalie Lorson. She's doing a lot of fragrances, and I think she's done a great job here. Very, very feminine though, fresh and feminine with creamy vanilla, kind of lightly milky kind of touches running throughout it. So it's vanilla, pear ice cream, tonka beans, magnolia, jasmine, sambac, and bergamot. It wears fresh, but you've got vanilla. It's a fresh kind of a vanilla fragrance with that kind of milky undertone, lightly milky pear ice cream undertone running throughout it, in contrast with the tonka beans and all the flowers that comes in, magnolia, jasmine, sambac, and bergamot. I think it's definitely solid. It's very designer smelling. So, you know, it's not necessarily like any kind of a challenging or kind of like a underground kind of a smell. It's very, very like, you've smelled this kind of smell, department store kind of smell, but I think she's done a great job with the way it smells. In contrast to another fragrance she created, this one she created on her own, Nathalie Lorson. This one she created with Marie Salamagna. They're completely different fragrances, even though both focus on vanilla. This one does get fruity from that pear. This one gets coconutty, but this also gets milky from that pear ice cream. So they're different, and then both use the jasmine as well. This one has jasmine, this one has jasmine. Here I'm getting the jasmine a little more. With this one I don't get much jasmine, even though Alien's supposed to be all about jasmine. So anyway, this is a fun fragrance. I think it's very young. In comparison to something like this, it's a little more mature, but definitely younger women can totally enjoy something like Coach Dreams Sunset. So that's another fragrance that I was going to talk to you about today. And then last but not least, we're talking about 3 Zadig & Voltaire fragrances. This is a house that I kind of want to explore a lot. So these were recent pickups. First of which is This Is Us, this one right here. So this kind of goes back to the similar bottles to the This Is Him, This Is Her kind of fragrance, and This Is Us is a unisex fragrance. And to me, the first time I tested it out, it reminded me of a kind of a vanillic, lemony kind of a fragrance experience. So let's try it once again. So definitely lots of sandalwood is also present here. There's a little bit of a light lemony but sweet, not tart undertone there, but it's mostly about the vanilla, sandalwood, musk, and patchouli. I think it's a pleasant fragrance. There is a creaminess about it, and it kind of reminds me of like the previous fragrance I spoke to you about. The creaminess, kind of like the ice cream kind of a thing. That one's a pear ice cream. Here, kind of like a lemon milky kind of ice cream undertone running throughout it. But the lemon is not overly strong, just for those people that don't like too much lemon, but there's like light hints of it in there. So This Is Us from the house of Zadig & Voltaire. Do you know about this house? It's a small fashion house out of France. They have some great fragrances, and the fragrances are all under Shiseido, similar to Serge Lutens and Dolce & Gabbana. So the other one I bought is This Is Her. A lot of you are asking me to pick this one up because it's lactonic and milky. So I agree, it is. This one is for her. You know, these kind of seem a little gender-bending fragrances. They kind of seem. Not necessarily a lot. This particular one I think is created by Michel Almerac. So there's definitely kind of creamy undertones. Again, it's kind of sandalwoody. I think sandalwood runs throughout the DNA of a lot of their fragrances, especially This Is Him, This Is Her, This Is Us. Lots of sandalwood, but you get the kind of light nuttiness from the chestnut. There's chestnut here, vanilla, whipped cream, sandalwood, cashmere wood, pink pepper, silkwood blossom, and jasmine. So I get interesting because I'm not getting like thick, heavy milkiness here. It's almost like a very light 2% milk kind of an experience. The milkiness is almost like it's fat-free. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but I'm not smelling the richness of like the heavy milkiness in here. But still, it's definitely got that lactonic quality in there, which makes for a kind of a cozy wear. I find milky fragrances very, very cozy. Anyway, that's Zadig & Voltaire, This Is Her. And then this one is called Just Rock for him. So I don't know why, but to me, when I smelled it, it kind of did remind me of the original. But when I look up the notes, once again, this is a Nathalie Lorson creation. But with Ariane Guichard is a co-perfumer with her. So when I smelled it, it reminded me of This Is Him, but a slight difference with it. So there's like more like ambery, spicy touches with this one in comparison to This Is Him, which is more sandalwood, incense, vanilla, and I believe some grapefruit in the notes as well. Very much it reminds me of it. It's got that sandalwoody creaminess, but it's powdery. It's got some spices, some amber, light patchouli, and woods, and that's this one right here. So do you need this one if you have This Is Him? I think it's similar, but you know, when you start wearing it, you will notice the differences. But I think if you already have that one, you might not need this one. But that's no, it's Just Rock for him from Zadig & Voltaire. Let me know if you're a fan of the fragrances from this house. Let me know if you've got any of the fragrances I spoke to you about today. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on some of their other fragrances in another What Do They Smell Like video. They're more recent fragrances in those rainbow colorful bottles. You can go catch that video. But eventually I'll do an entire video on this house because I do want to cover Zadig & Voltaire. It's a house that I do enjoy their fashions and things like that, so the fragrances definitely should be highlighted. Very, very underground and unhyped brand here in the States. Either way, those are my thoughts on all of these fragrances. I think out of every single one of these, I'm really, really loving Synthetic Jungle, so perhaps I'll do a full review of this one. If you guys want a full review, but let me know what other fragrances you want me to do a full review of. But out of all of them, I'm really, really loving Synthetic Jungle, followed up by Kyoto. And sadly, the most disappointing one out of all of them is Autumn Vibes. That is not good. Not good at all. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.